California burns, not just with fire, but with prophecy. As we witness the most devastating inferno in the state's history, a chilling question emerges. Could these flames be more than just another natural disaster? What if these fires, consuming entire communities with unprecedented fury, are actually fulfilling prophecies written thousands of years ago? This revelation will shatter everything you thought you knew about biblical prophecies and natural disasters. While others see only destruction, we've uncovered patterns so profound, so precisely aligned with ancient texts that they've left even the most skeptical religious scholars speechless. These aren't just fires. But this isn't just another analysis. It's a wake-up call that will change how you see the world forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand why these specific fires align with prophecies in ways that even leading theologians missed. They count ancient biblical warnings perfectly predicted not just these fires, but their exact patterns of destruction. Most importantly, what these prophecies reveal about what's coming next. As California burns, the veil between ancient prophecy and modern reality grows thinner by the day. The real question isn't whether these fires fulfill biblical prophecies. It's whether we're ready for what comes next. Part 1. The Creation's Cry. Picture, if you will, the Garden of Eden, a paradise where every leaf danced with divine purpose, where rivers flowed with crystal clarity, and where humanity walked in perfect harmony with creation. This wasn't just a garden, it was the masterpiece of God's creative power, a living testament to His perfect design. In this sacred space, every creature, from the smallest insect to the mightiest beast, existed in a delicate balance that reflected the glory of its Creator. But today, as we stand amid the ash-filled skies of California, we witness a drastically different scene. The very earth that once sang with joy now groans in anguish. The Apostle Paul's words in Romans 8:22 echo with haunting relevance. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. These aren't merely poetic words, they're a prophetic description of our current reality. Consider the devastating fires that now ravage California's landscape. These aren't ordinary fires, they're breaking records that have stood for centuries. In 2023, we witnessed flames that consumed over 2.5 million acres, temperatures that exceeded historical records, and destruction that left even seasoned firefighters in disbelief. The earth itself seems to be crying out, reminiscent of another crucial moment in biblical history. In Genesis, we read of another time when creation cried out, when Abel's blood spoke from the ground after Cain's act of violence. God told Cain, "Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Genesis 4:10. This marked the first instance where creation itself bore witness to humanity's departure from divine harmony. Today, California's scorched earth bears similar witness, but the parallel goes deeper. In the ancient world, particularly during the time of the prophets, environmental catastrophes were never seen as mere natural phenomena. The prophet Hosea drew a direct connection between humanity's spiritual condition and the state of the land. The land mourns, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the fish of the sea are dying. Hosea 4:03. This brings us to a shocking realization. These fires might be more than just the result of climate change or poor forest management. They could be creation itself crying out, bearing witness to humanity's broken relationship with both God and His creation. Just as the ground that received Abel's blood could not remain silent, perhaps these fires are creation's testimony against our modern excesses and spiritual negligence. Think about it. In the Garden of Eden, humanity was given a sacred trust to tend and care for creation as stewards of God's masterpiece. Genesis 2:15 clearly states that God put humans in the garden to work it and take care of it. But look at our world today. We've replaced stewardship with exploitation, harmony with profit, and divine purpose with personal gain. The intensity of California's fires serves as a mirror, reflecting back to us the consequences of this broken trust. Each flame that reaches toward the sky seems to echo the words of the prophet Isaiah. The earth is defiled by its people. They have disobeyed the laws, violated the statutes, and broken the everlasting covenant. Isaiah 24:05. But here's the most chilling part. These fires might be just the beginning. Throughout Scripture, we see a pattern. Creation's groans often precede significant divine movements. Before the flood, before the Exodus, before major biblical turning points, nature itself often served as God's preliminary warning system. As these flames consume California's landscape, they illuminate an even more profound truth about God's character and His ongoing interaction with our world. The fires aren't just destroying, they're revealing something crucial about divine justice and mercy, a pattern that becomes clear when we examine how God has historically used fire as His instrument. Part 2. Divine Messages in the Flames. Ancient warnings echo in California's Inferno. Picture the ancient city of Jerusalem nearly 3,000 years ago. The prophet Elijah stands atop Mount Carmel, surrounded by 450 prophets of Baal. The air is thick with tension as he issues his historic challenge, a divine demonstration that would forever mark the relationship between fire and divine presence in biblical history. This wasn't just any contest. As recorded in 1 Kings 18, Elijah had called for 2 altars, one for Baal's prophets and one for the Lord. The stakes were unprecedented. Whichever deity answered by fire would be acknowledged as the true God. Hour after hour, Baal's prophets danced, cried out, and even cut themselves in desperate attempts to summon their God's fire. Silence was their only answer. Then came Elijah's turn. In a move that defied conventional wisdom, he ordered his altar drenched with water not once, but 3 times. The water filled the trench around the altar, making any natural fire impossible. As the sun began to set, Elijah stepped forward. His prayer was brief but powerful. "Lord, let it be known today that you are God in Israel." What happened next would echo through centuries. Fire fell from heaven with such intensity that it consumed not just the sacrifice but the wood, stones, soil, and even the water in the trench. This wasn't just destruction, it was divine validation. A message written in flames that transformed witnesses into believers. Fast forward to another pivotal moment. Sodom and Gomorrah. Here, fire served not as validation but as divine judgment. Genesis 19 describes a scene of unprecedented destruction, cities consumed by fire and brimstone from heaven. Yet within this story of judgment, we find a crucial detail often overlooked. Lot's family was warned and given a chance to escape. The fire, even in judgment, came with mercy. Now, as we witness California's landscape transformed by unprecedented fires, these ancient stories take on new significance. Consider the patterns. The Carmel fire demonstrated God's power and presence. The Sodom fire brought judgment but offered escape. Both events mark turning points in spiritual history, moments when the divine broke through into human experience in unmistakable ways. Today's California fires display remarkably similar patterns. Like the Carmel fire, they command attention, demanding acknowledgement of forces beyond human control. Like Sodom's destruction, they force us to confront questions of judgment and mercy. Communities have mere moments to evacuate, much like Lot's family. The parallels are striking and demand our attention. But here's what makes these current fires truly extraordinary. They're not just destroying, they're revealing. Just as the Carmel fire exposed false prophets and the Sodom fire revealed corrupt foundations, California's fires are stripping away our illusions of control and self-sufficiency. Multi-million-dollar mansions and humble homes alike surrender to the flames, reminding us of a power greater than human achievement. What's most compelling is how these fires mirror the dual nature of divine fire in Scripture, both as purifier and judge. Malachi 3:02 describes God as a refiner's fire, purifying precious metals by burning away impurities. Today's fires, while destructive, are also revealing what truly matters: communities coming together, strangers helping strangers, faith emerging from ashes. The message: These aren't just random disasters. They're part of an ancient pattern, carrying warnings and wisdom for those willing to see. Just as Elijah's fire validated truth and Sodom's fire warned of judgment, today's fires call us to examine our foundations, our priorities, and our relationship with both divine and natural law. As these flames consume our carefully constructed world of wealth and luxury, they illuminate an even more profound truth about our priorities and what truly endures when everything else burns away. Part 3. Wealth, Luxury, and Divine Warning. Picture this. A $16.9 million mansion perched high in the Malibu hills, a testament to human achievement and luxury. Italian marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, a garage housing rare vintage cars. The owner, a successful tech entrepreneur, had spent years building this dream. But on that fateful November morning in 2023, as the California fires approached, all that wealth meant nothing. Within hours, this symbol of success was reduced to ashes, joining countless other luxury homes in what would become the largest fire in California's history. This modern tragedy echoes an ancient truth, one that resonates through biblical history with haunting precision. Let me take you back to another time, another place of extraordinary wealth. The Tyre stood as the Manhattan of the ancient world. Its merchants were princes, its traders the honored of the earth. The prophet Ezekiel described it in breathtaking detail. Ships made of cypress from Senir, masts of cedars from Lebanon, oars of oak from Bashan, decks inlaid with ivory. This was a city that believed its wealth made it invincible. "I am perfect in beauty," it proclaimed. Sound familiar? But God sent a warning through Ezekiel. "Because your heart is proud and you have said, 'I am a god, I sit in the seat of the gods in the heart of the seas,' yet you are but a mortal." The parallel to our modern reality is striking. Just as Tyre's wealth couldn't protect it from divine judgment, our modern luxuries offer no shelter from nature's fury, or perhaps more accurately, from divine warning. Consider this. In the path of California's recent fires, we've seen a peculiar pattern. The most devastating losses often struck the wealthiest neighborhoods. Multi-million-dollar homes in Beverly Hills, Malibu, and Pacific Palisades, areas that represented the pinnacle of earthly success, reduced to ash, while more modest neighborhoods sometimes remained untouched. Is this merely coincidence, or is there a deeper message? The Bible speaks directly to this in James 5:1-3. "Come now, you rich people, weep and wail for the miseries that are coming to you. Your riches have rotted, your gold and silver have rusted." These words, written 2 millennia ago, seem to speak directly to our time. Let me share another story that brings this message home. During the height of the fires, a local pastor recounted how he watched a Ferrari dealership burn. Next to it stood a homeless shelter, untouched by the flames. The imagery was almost too perfect, like a modern parable playing out in real time. This wasn't just about destruction, it was about priority. Think about the biblical account of the rich young ruler who came to Jesus, confident in his wealth and religious observance. Jesus looked at him with love, this is crucial, and told him to sell everything he had. The man went away sad, unable to let go of his possessions. Today, the fires are forcing similar choices, but with far less gentleness. The crescendo of this divine warning reached its peak when the fires breached what locals called Billionaires Row in Beverly Hills. As residents fled in their luxury vehicles, many reported a strange phenomenon. Their smart home systems, their high-tech security, their state-of-the-art fire suppression systems, all the technological advances money could buy, failed simultaneously. In that moment, the wealthy were no different from anyone else fleeing the flames. Here's what makes this pattern so significant. Throughout biblical history, divine warnings about wealth and materialism often preceded larger judgments. The prophet Amos warned Israel about their luxury and complacency before their fall. Jesus himself warned about building bigger barns to store wealth, just before teaching about final judgment. But here's the crucial understanding. These warnings aren't about condemning wealth itself. Rather, they're about our relationship with it. When our trust shifts from God to our possessions, we build our houses on sand, not rock. The California fires are revealing the foundation of each house, both literally and spiritually. As these mansions crumble into ash, we're forced to confront an even more sobering reality. These fires aren't just destroying wealth. They're unveiling prophetic patterns that have been hidden in plain sight for millennia. And what these patterns reveal about our immediate future might be the most shocking part of all. Part 4. Prophetic Signs in Modern Time. A warm October evening in California's wine country, 2023. The air is unusually still, eerily quiet. Within hours, that silence would be shattered by what locals would later describe as a wall of fire descending from heaven. The scene that unfolded mirrors with chilling accuracy the ancient visions recorded by the prophet Joel. 2,000 years ago, Joel wrote of a time when fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. These weren't just poetic words. They were precise descriptions of what we're witnessing today. But to truly understand these signs, we need to journey back even further, to a moment that changed biblical history forever. Mount Carmel, 870 BC. The prophet Elijah stands alone against 450 prophets of Baal. The sky is brass, the earth parched from 3 years of drought. Elijah issues his famous challenge: "Let the true God answer by fire." Hour after hour, the false prophets dance, cry out, cut themselves. Nothing happens. Then, as the sun begins to set, Elijah steps forward. He drenches his altar with water, making the challenge even more impossible. His prayer is simple, direct. Suddenly, fire falls from heaven, consuming not just the sacrifice, but the stones, the water, everything. This historical moment sets a precedent. Divine fire serves as both judgment and vindication. Fast forward to today's California, where we see fires exhibiting behavior that defies scientific explanation. In Santa Rosa, 2020, firefighters reported flames that jumped highways, crossed lakes, and moved against the wind. Phenomena that mirror biblical descriptions of supernatural fire. Consider this pattern. In ancient Israel, periods of spiritual decline were often marked by 3 signs: unprecedented natural disasters, social upheaval, and economic instability. Sound familiar? California's fires aren't just burning trees and houses, they're revealing a pattern that's been hidden in plain sight. Jesus himself spoke of this convergence in Luke 21. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. But here's what's crucial. These weren't meant to be isolated events. They were meant to appear together, intensifying like labor pains. Let's examine the evidence. The 2020 California fires set records for size and intensity. The 2021 season started earlier than ever recorded. The 2022-2023 cycle shows patterns that align perfectly with biblical timing. But there's something even more remarkable. The prophet Amos spoke of fire that would devour the great deep and eat up the farmland. This precise pattern played out in California's recent fires, where underground root systems burned for weeks after surface fires were extinguished, literally devouring the deep. Here's where it gets even more intriguing. Ancient Hebrew texts describe end-time fires that would exhibit 3 specific characteristics. 1. They would be unstoppable by conventional means. 2. They would create their own weather systems. 3. They would reveal what's hidden. The California fires tick every box. Firefighters report fire behavior that defies traditional firefighting methods. These megafires create their own pyrocumulus clouds and lightning storms. And most tellingly, they're exposing long-buried artifacts and historical sites, literally revealing what was hidden. But these signs aren't meant to terrify us, they are meant to awaken us. Just as Elijah's fire on Mount Carmel wasn't just about destruction, but about revealing truth, today's fires serve a similar purpose. They're not just destroying, they're illuminating, revealing, and yes, even purifying. As these prophetic patterns unfold before our eyes, we're not left without hope. In fact, understanding these signs provides us with something even more valuable: a roadmap through the chaos. And in our next segment, we'll discover how ancient wisdom offers not just warnings, but promises of protection and renewal in times like these. Hope amid the ashes, a divine message through fire. In the early hours of October 8th, Sarah Martinez stood on her porch in Paradise, California, watching the sky turn an apocalyptic orange. Like many that morning, she faced an impossible choice: what to save from a lifetime of memories as the campfire, the deadliest wildfire in California's history, raced toward her home of 30 years. In that moment of crisis, Sarah remembered the story of Lot's wife, the biblical warning about looking back when God calls us to move forward. "I grabbed my Bible, my children's photos, and fled," she recalls, her voice trembling with emotion. "Everything else, everything I'd spent decades building, I had to leave it all behind." The parallels between Sarah's story and the ancient biblical narratives are striking. Just as the people of Israel faced the consuming fire at Mount Sinai, where God's presence manifested in flames that both terrified and transformed, today's California residents find themselves confronting fires that destroy and yet mysteriously bring forth new life. Consider the remarkable story of the Paradise Community Church. As the inferno devoured everything in its path, Pastor David Thompson and his congregation gathered in the parking lot, forming a circle of prayer. The flames approached from 3 directions, leaving no apparent escape route. In that moment of desperation, Pastor Thompson recalled the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. "We weren't just praying for survival," Pastor Thompson explains, his eyes reflecting the memory of that terrifying night. "We were praying for understanding. Why was God allowing this? What message was He sending through these flames?" Then something extraordinary happened. As the congregation prayed, the wind suddenly shifted. A path opened up, not just any path, but one that led them to safety through the very route that had seemed most dangerous moments before. Every member of that prayer circle survived. But the story doesn't end there. In the aftermath of the fire, as the smoke cleared and the ashes settled, something remarkable began to emerge. Within weeks of the devastation, tiny green shoots began pushing through the blackened soil. Fire-activated seeds, dormant for decades, burst into life. Scientists call this phenomenon fire-following flora, plants that actually require fire to germinate. This natural process mirrors an ancient truth found in Isaiah 61:3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes. Just as these seeds need intense heat to release their potential, sometimes our greatest moments of transformation come through our fiercest trial. The story of the Paradise Community takes an even more profound turn. In the rebuilding process, they discovered that while their church building was destroyed, the cross that stood at its center remained untouched by the flames. This echo of divine preservation recalls the burning bush that Moses encountered, aflame yet not consumed. But perhaps the most powerful testimony comes from what happened next. As the community began to rebuild, something unprecedented occurred. People who had never set foot in a church began showing up at their temporary meeting place in a high school gymnasium. They came seeking not just material help, but spiritual answers. "We lost everything," says Maria Rodriguez, a Paradise resident who had never considered herself religious before the fire. "But in losing everything, I found something I never knew I was missing. Hope. Real hope. Not in things that can burn, but in something eternal." This pattern, destruction followed by unprecedented spiritual awakening, mirrors the biblical pattern seen throughout Scripture. When the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem, it led to a deeper understanding of God's presence beyond physical structures. When the early church faced persecution and displacement, it sparked the greatest expansion of Christianity in history. Today, Paradise is rebuilding, but not just physically. The community has been transformed. Where once stood isolated homes connected only by roads and power lines, now exists a network of relationships forged in fire. People who once barely knew their neighbors now share deep bonds of faith and purpose. As we witness this remarkable transformation in Paradise, we must ask ourselves, what if these fires, as devastating as they are, carry a message of hope that's bigger than our current understanding. Could these flames be illuminating a path not just to physical rebuilding, but to spiritual renewal? As the fires in California continue to rage, we stand at a pivotal moment in history. These aren't just flames consuming our forests and homes. They're divine signals illuminating truths that have been written in Scripture for thousands of years. The question isn't whether these fires align with biblical prophecies. We've shown you compelling evidence that they do. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Think about it. As you've watched these ancient prophecies unfold before your eyes, as you've seen how precisely today's events mirror biblical warnings, can you continue to view these fires as mere natural disasters? Can you ignore the divine message being written across our landscape in flames? This is your moment of decision. Will you be like those who ignored Noah's warnings of the flood? Or will you be among those who recognize the signs and prepare, not just physically, but spiritually, for what's coming next? Let me challenge you with this thought. If today's fires are indeed fulfilling biblical prophecies, what other prophecies might be unfolding right now that we need to understand? I want to hear your thoughts on this. Share in the comments below how today's revelations have impacted your understanding of current events. Have you witnessed similar signs in your area? What biblical connections have you noticed that we haven't discussed? Type "I understand" in the comments if you're ready to be more aware of these prophetic signs in our time. I'll be personally reading and responding to your insights because your perspective matters in this crucial conversation. Here's what to do next. First, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Why? Because we're continuing this journey of prophetic discovery, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Each video builds upon these revelations, unveiling deeper truths about our times. Second, share this video with someone you care about. In times like these, knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Your share could be the divine appointment someone needs today. Finally, click on the video appearing on your screen now. It reveals another crucial piece of this prophetic puzzle that directly connects to what we've discussed today. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery. Remember, as California burns, these flames aren't just destroying. They're illuminating truth for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. The question is, are you ready to see? Stay blessed, stay aware, and I'll see you in our next prophetic revelation. May God grant you the wisdom to discern these times, the courage to face what's coming, and the faith to stand firm in the midst of life's fires. Until next time, remember that even in the darkest times, prophetic truth lights our way forward.